welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Chelsea and we talk all things budgeting and personal finance here. So if this is something that interests you, make sure to subscribe. We're going to talk about high yield savings accounts and which ones I find helpful. So a high yield savings account is truly just a savings account that earns you more money back in interest. Depending on what's in your savings account, you'd get basically kind of like nothing off of a regular savings account. But with a high yield savings account, they have interest rates like, I think the most recent I saw was like 3.6% and so on and so forth, where you earn a lot more money back in saving your money in those accounts as opposed to a regular savings account. So there are several different companies and banks that allow you to have a high yield savings account. The one that I am currently using is Capital One, but I've heard of banks like Ally and like Goldman Sachs, stuff like that. So make sure to do your research and search around for one that has a high interest rate, doesn't have any sort of like fees, doesn't need certain minimums unless you got it like that. And that's great. And make sure that it's FDIC insured. So making sure that your money is insured just in case something happens. We don't want anything to happen to that money. So now moving on to the savings accounts that I have found helpful and that might be helpful to you as well. The first being an emergency fund. Everybody talks about this all day long. A lot of people tend to save 3 to 6 months worth of their monthly expenses and save it in an emergency fund, and they found that to be helpful. Some people will save like $1,000, $2,000. It really just depends on you and your special circumstances, but this is really just for emergencies, not going on a shopping trip. I'm sorry. You know, if there's an emergency car repair you have to do, if for some reason someone loses their job and you have to come up with money for expenses, if you have an emergency tooth procedure you have to do, if one of your children or your pets or something like that, something's going on with them and you have to take them to the vet or to the doctor, that's where the emergency fund really steps in. And I find this very useful to keep in a high yield savings account because, again, you're earning that extra interest back towards what you already are saving in the first place. Next up is a health high yield savings account. So this one I find to be very helpful if I know that I'm gonna have a certain amount of co-pays per year. For example, I try to regularly keep up with, my PCP and stuff like that. So keeping a certain amount tucked away for health, because health costs will arise during the year. We are human beings and things happen, and sometimes our body tells us to slow down. So keeping a certain amount tucked away for that is very, very useful and has come in so clutch. Also, a car maintenance high yield savings account is very helpful for those oil changes, when you need to replace your brakes, when you need to replace your tires. That savings account is super helpful for those things. High yield savings accounts in general for your children or for your pets are very useful. I don't need to explain that to anybody. If you know you're spending a certain amount of money on extracurriculars for your child, or for back to school, you're spending a pretty penny, I'm sure, spending on clothing and shoes and school supplies, stuff like that. These are very, very helpful to be able to save for in advance. Again, this is separate from the emergency fund. So the emergency fund, any emergencies will come out of the emergency fund. But you know that things like back to school and certain expenses will come up for your child. Same thing for your pet. You know you'll have to take the pet to go get groomed or to go to the vet to get checked out, or even saving up for their food if you buy their food in bulk. This is very useful to know in advance and save for. And again, you're earning extra interest back on money that you're already saving for in the first place. Another one that's one of my personal favorites is events or holidays. You can combine the two, you can separate them. It depends on your lifestyle and what you're all about. But I truly know that this is something that saves me every single year. I also include birthdays into this as well, whether it's like a little treat or if it's something like, for me, Christmas, where we're buying gifts for people and stuff like that. Again, that is personal to you, so make it work for what goes on in your life and what you subscribe to. But this high yield savings account also includes like gifts for things like that as well. For example, if you know that maybe your little sibling is graduating this year, you can kind of think ahead and say, well, oh, okay, I'm gonna need some extra funds for that, for maybe a gift, or for maybe I'm going to take them to lunch or dinner or something like that. just being able to think ahead and again, have that chunk of money there available for you so it's not disrupting your normal pay schedule here, your normal budgeting schedule. I am also a fan of the personal high yield savings account. So that means things for you. If you know that you are getting your hair cut, colored, and dyed however many times a year, make sure that you're saving money for that. If you know that you are getting your nails done however many times a year, make sure that you are saving your money for that. Massages, if you like to get yourself a couple of clothing pieces for each season that come up, let's be very realistic here and make sure that we are saving for that so that once the time comes, you can just pull that money straight from that high yield savings account and be prepared. I don't know why I left this one for later on in the list, but Travel is definitely one that I found helpful. If I know something is coming up, I will try to save as much as possible so that I don't feel like I'm completely tearing my budget to shreds when it comes time for the actual travel, the trip, whatever it is. And even if you don't have anything necessarily planned, if you have the funds to do so, you can just throw a couple bucks to the side each paycheck, and when something does come up, you're prepared. Then the last one I'm going to touch on really quickly is the home high yield savings account. Now, this does not mean you have to have a house. It doesn't mean you have to have a condo. It doesn't mean you have to have an apartment, whatever. What this high yield savings account can do is just prepare you for if you have to get any household anything done. Again, this is personal finance, so this is supposed to fit you and your lifestyle, so you can make it mean whatever it means to you. But if you need household items, for example, if you tend to restock on your household items like your toilet paper and your paper towel, stuff like that, all in one shot, you can save this money in this high yield savings account. If you do own a home and you do have someone do like your landscaping or lawn care, something like that, a couple times a year, you can estimate how much that will be and start preparing those funds for that in advance. Even if you're at home, there is no shame in that. Maybe this might mean that you are just saving up for when you do need like your toiletries or something like that. Because for me, all my toiletries run out at once and it's painful. First world problems, but they do run out all at once. With that being said, you can use this fund as something that you throw a couple bucks towards. So when your shampoo, conditioner, body wash, soap, all the things run out at the same time, because that's how life goes. But that wraps up my list. Again, these are just ideas of high yield savings accounts that I found to be helpful for me, and I think will be very helpful for you if you decide to open one up. Again, the whole point here is to be able to save for things that you know are coming up, and being able to save in these accounts that you know will give you a little bit more back than if you were to save it in a regular savings account. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Also, let me know in the comments if you do have a high yield savings account or multiple, and which ones are you currently finding helpful for you in your lifestyle. If this was helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And also check out my other social media. I'm pretty active on TikTok and Instagram, and follow me there as well. We'll talk soon. Bye.